Hey everybody, welcome back to Kyle and Nick on Film. One of your hosts, Kyle Goethe. With me as always is Nick Palodichuk.
Yep.
And today we're going to solve a murder, 2 murders, 3 murders. We're going to solve a lot of murders today. We're talking Zodiac. All right, thank you guys for joining us again for Kyle and Nick on Film. As I said before, I'm Kyle Goethe from GoetheFilmReviews.com.
And I'm Nick Palodichuk from the St. Paul Filmcast, and today we're going to talk about the 2007 film that I think was completely robbed at the Oscars, even though it had a lot of contention because there was a lot of good movies at the time. We're going to talk about the film Zodiac, directed by David Fincher, starring Iron Man, the Hulk, and Mysterio.
Yeah, and written by the guy that wrote Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, so the Zodiac is actually a true story of a serial killer that was in San Francisco in the late 60s, early 70s. He was never caught. There's a lot of theories of who he could possibly be. This movie definitely borrowed from the cartoonist at St. Paul, San Francisco Chronicle, Paul Graysmith?
Robert Graysmith.
Robert Graysmith.
Yep.
And his account and his investigation and his likely candidate of who the Zodiac killer is.
Yes, and this was the first time watching the film for me, and so I went into it. I knew that there are some, I don't want to say liberties taken, but there are some assumptions made by the filmmakers based on the book by Graysmith himself, that, you know, it does kind of like head in a direction of an actual, trying to basically come up with a good climax for a film, because how do you do a climax for a film where we really haven't answered the central question at the end? And I think that this movie, I'm just going to say right now, this movie was amazing. I absolutely adored this film.
I am absolutely angered that this had no Oscar in any category.
We've talked about this before, though, and I do think 2007 is one of is a rare year in that it's one of those films with an abundance of riches. Every week there is a great movie coming out in 2007, and it's just, you know, you don't have to be the best film. You have to be one of the 5 best films of the year, and it's just like maybe everything it did was 6th best, and it just didn't hold on to that.
And I've had this conversation with other people. If this movie came out in 2006, it would have been a Best Picture nominee.
Oh yeah, almost any other year.
One of the nice things about David Fincher did with this movie is take meticulous detail to make sure that everything that transpired was a real count. They invested years of researching police reports of crime scenes and actual events, and actually used the audio of the Zodiac calling in the murderers, and it's in the movie, and implying, of course, the great 1969, the late 60s Donovan hit hurdy-gurdy man. There's a great editing, there's a great development to this. There's not hardly any narration to it, I think.
No, I mean, and the tough thing again is when you have a film with no true climax that you have to work and find a climax to, which is great storytelling. But then you also have 3 characters who aren't really any one of them a lead for the entire film. Each one of them kind of takes a section almost and kind of leads a portion of this film, driving us towards the ending. I was kind of wondering the whole time, I was like, I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was the lead of the film, and he doesn't really take over until about halfway through and really gets some work done, if you will. I really enjoyed. Remember how we talked with Panic Room? I talked about how the fade outs and the editing kind of frustrated me because they were fading out of a scene that we were still in the middle of and then fading back in. It had the opposite effect here, in that I felt that we have a large passage of time, much like Mark Ruffalo's other previous films.
It seems epic without being very long.
Yeah. We have the passage of time that, I mean, decades that go by throughout this film, and if we don't have, you know, and you can lose the momentum there, but I really like, again, like he uses a lot of these fade outs in films like Gone Girl and films like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And here, and I think it's very effective in this film. I think this is probably one of the most well shot films I've ever seen.
So when we talk about Panic Room, and I talk about that was the beginning of David Fincher really maturing as a filmmaker. This is the home run that he moved on to, that I really was impressed with. Yeah,
I think he learned from a lot of the mistakes that came with Panic Room. Yeah. He kind of, again, learned how to use CG, because I don't feel like any of the CG in this film looks dated in the way that it looked dated in Panic Room. And I think there's more CG in this film because it's set in the past, and I can guarantee you they were not building all of these locations, brick by brick. I'm just in awe that I missed this film for so many years, and I'm very excited to make my wife watch it later on this week, because I was telling her about it and she's absolutely enthralled now. So which one of the 3 storylines did you like the most, I guess, between Jake's, Mark's, and Robert Downey Jr.'s?
The overall storyline I like about this is actually not the whole investigation of who the Zodiac is. It's actually a whole about obsessions and addictions, and that Paul is obsessed with this almost to ruin his personal life to find out who the Zodiac is. In fact, he's almost the interruption of life going on. Even people have accepted that we're never going to solve this case, including detectives that get annoyed with him that he would not let it stop. You have Paul Avery with his addictions and his compulsions and a lot of problems with it. And the serial killer, the Zodiac, his compulsions. And I think that's the overall theme to this is how obsession, compulsive, serial and addiction can ruin lives, rather than overall the investigation of who could possibly be the Zodiac.
Yeah, you have Inspector Tashi played by Ruffalo, and I really think a tremendously great turn from Anthony Edwards as Armstrong, his partner. Those two working so well together and kind of two different versions of things where you have like Ruffalo is working like round the clock. His mind's always running. Yeah. He's always looking for something to eat because he's got to maintain his his wakeness.
Yeah, it breaks that sin of you never really see in movies people eat. You see him.
I don't think you ever see him not eat. But then you have kind of like the more stoic straight man, the Anthony Edwards character, who I think again I just adored him in this movie, and he gets to kind of play, I guess, the straight man, the one who's really succumbing to what's going on around him. This is a very dark time to be on the streets, and he's working this way. And then you have Ruffalo's character who's kind of obsessing over it. He won't let it quit. He's not willing to move aside and let another investigation take over. Just each one of the stories, I never felt like there was a weak point.
So if you didn't know, if you're going to before you stop and look up, Dave Toshki is a real person, a real investigator. He inspired all the movies. So he inspired the movie Bullet, and that's Dave Toshki. Steve McQueen's character Bullet is based on Dave Toshki. Also, Dirty Harry was Dave Toshki inspired. Dirty Harry. In fact, the first movie, Dirty Harry, was the accounts of Zodiac, with a fictional account, not really.
Yeah,
because they do get the bad guy at the end.
With it's a sniper killer. Like he's got a specific. He's not as sadistic as I feel like our Zodiac in this film was, because as we watch each of these murders take place, they are hauntingly shot.
Which in the movie they actually go see the movie, and you see like how they respond to it. Yeah,
and I think that's a good inverse of what's going on there. The cyclical nature of art imitating life, imitating art. Because again, even our Zodiac, we come to the idea of the most dangerous game being a film and being a novel that's been adapted numerous times and inspiring in some way this sick mind to go ahead and create the acts that he's doing. One thing I really enjoyed too is, in these individual interactions with the Zodiac killer, Fincher has different actors with different physical builds playing the Zodiac.
So you don't have like a solid...
So that way you can't really... Because you're always seeing it from someone else's perspective. You're seeing it from like a victim's perspective or a recollection of events. And he actually cast, I think it was like 4 different Zodiac builds, not even including the different people going for the film. And as I was watching, I was like, that's not the same guy, and I'm like pausing and like rewinding and stuff, and I was very taken with that, because again, like, we're not following the Zodiac's interactions with Grace Smith or with the inspectors or with Paul Avery. We're following it through the eyes of the people that they're discussing it with.
The best thing about this, David Fincher is running parallels. So like Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr. pairing up. One's very loud, but one's very, very reserved, as well as Mark Ruffalo and Anthony Edwards pairing up. One's very loud, one's very stoic. And they're running parallel, doing the same job almost, but you see how the consequences of one group splitting off from one in their interactions.
Well, and the fact that they're not really, like, at no point are all 3 of these guys together, like, and working together, and the film has a lot of that.
And even if they are, they're not really going. Yeah,
there's multiple police precincts, and no one's giving the information to the other one because they don't want to lose the case. No one's working together, and the situation is not getting better because of it. It's almost a real good. It's a good tale about how teamwork can actually make the dream.
But it also presents why this case was never solved, because he was caught.
Yeah.
When the Zodiac was caught, when he killed the taxi driver, the police stopped him, and the only thing that they let him go is because the initial count was there was supposed to be a black person, and the police let him go. He was caught, and then they let him go, and then you see the whole bureaucracy, red tape entanglement that hinders the investigation of why they couldn't find this person. The next thing I want to point: supporting actors are phenomenal in this movie. Brian Cox is wonderful. I mean, he eats up the entire scene, even though he's in there for a few minutes.
He does, and what I like about Brian Cox is he knows when he's the focus of a scene, because he does this in every movie he's in. If he's the focus of the scene, he will chew that scenery. He will chew the dialogue. He's got that moment where he's drinking the hot toddy.
Slow.
He's drinking the hot toddy at his desk, and he knows that everyone's interviewing him, and he's just enjoying the moment. Enjoying the conversation that he's having. And Brian Cox was great.
Chloe was
Chloe Sevigny, was fantastic. And
she was very reserved. She was very quiet. Character,
and again, her story picks up as Gyllenhaal's respective story does pick up, because there was a good amount of time where I was like, what are they doing with Chloe? Like, she's a great actress, and she's not given a whole lot of time to shine early in the film, but kind of evolves to that point. Donal Logue, who I really enjoyed, who plays
the sheriff,
one of the captains, and he was kind of involved in that, because he's done a lot more like comedy. He's done a lot more superhero stuff,
Rupert Everett's in it?
No, Dermot Mulroney.
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
No, I did the same thing, though.
I did it.
But then you get, what I like about it, too, is this is, again, a film where you know the direction it's going, but Fincher does a great job keeping our many red herrings in check. Because, again, knowing enough about the source actual story to be able to kind of glean my details, I thought it was going one way, and then I realized we're going a different way. And then as the film goes on, I'm like, but is that going to be where we end up? And then a third track starts. And I love that it makes you question a whole lot more, even with the film being real. Based on true events, the fact that you are actually questioning what's going on and questioning who could it possibly be is a very strong idea, because it's such a famous case.
The best thing about this movie, and we talked a lot of best things about the cinematography, the stylized, and the investigation. I like to say this is articulately recreating the crime scenes, and the focus is really well done. I still am amazed that this didn't get any nominations for anything.
See, and for me, I think the one that I would have linked it most to is cinematography. We have a great DP over there who has passed away in the past couple of years. Actually worked on American Gangster, Harris Savitas, I believe it is.
Yes.
And just like I said, one of the most well shot films I've ever seen. I particularly liked the almost like the original Grand Theft Auto kind of thing, where you're looking down on the car as it's moving, and we're following the car as it turns down the different roads. A number of uses of CGI that were really prevalent when Fincher made Fight Club, and of course he used them throughout Panic Room as well. But some CGI where it doesn't hinder the film; it just kind of
there's a great scene where Jake Gyllenhaal's character is walking down the street, and he just peers into the open door and sees that he's not part of this group, and how that group interacts, and he's just almost like the Searchers, that these people in this room, that's their lives, and I'm not really part of that yet.
Yep, and he has kind of an obsession.
What a great visual,
He has an obsession with being a part of the clique, he's had this job for a while, but he's just a cartoonist and he wants to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, again, what drives him to, he's a cartoonist. He should not be involved in the Zodiac, So I really enjoyed a lot of the really well-timed shots, even just the dialogue.
Even a little
moments.
bit of comedy. There's comedy in there, the silliness, and even Brian Cox, you can even just really kind of get a chuckle out of it. So
exactly.
It's not a dreary movie. But
no, I really think it knows when it needs to be dreary, though.
Yeah, it does.
Those murder sequence, particularly the one around the lake, early on, about 20 minutes into the film. Yeah. That if I was watching that before going to sleep, I probably would have had nightmares. And I'm not a nightmare person.
There's some things
but they really get you with.
It really is almost better than a lot of horror movies. Show how terrific.
So I think Fincher knows when his tone needs to be that way, but he also knows that when he's got Robert Downey Jr. as Paul Avery on screen, he can infuse a little bit more comedy. So that way, the tragedy of what his character is going through becomes more prevalent. And of course, Robert Downey Jr., coming to this role as a man who has struggled with addiction
before.
It's a
great performance by Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, but I wish that we had gotten to see kind of that Iron Man demon in a bottle storyline from him as well, acted out on film, because he knows the pain.
And Robert Downey, he's snarky and it's good. He can be funny and it's good. He can be reserved and it was good. I mean, the first few seconds of him, you know that.
I know. He just owns every scene, again, like Brian Cox. And it's so much fun to watch these, I would call them all titans. They have all, especially in the last 15 years, have really
And that's a real person. Paul Avery was a real person that was actually Zodiac pursued and threatened in publications, and you actually would have a button, and that's in the movie in real life, and you actually button doesn't run. I'm not Paul Avery.
Yeah. Well, and even the Zodiac's addiction to being famous, and it again, we look at this now. We have our Tiger Kings, we have our Making a Murderers, like crime documentary style filmmaking has become such a big facet of our pop culture. We have, in the last year, we had a Ted Bundy biopic film, and we also had a Ted Bundy documentary. Like, people are interested in these true crime elements, and this is a movie that, again, feels like it's a precursor to that, in that, like, it enveloped all of pop culture for a while, too.
And I think the enticement has never been solved.
Yeah, and in fact, it was reopened. The case was reopened after this film came out because the evidence felt like maybe we should be looking into it more. Overall, I just really enjoyed the film. I cannot recommend this one enough.
Yeah.
If you can catch the director's cut, because it's got a few extra minutes in it that just kind of pad the film. And I don't feel like I was ever bored for the 2 hours and 40 minutes that this thing ran.
No, when you saw it in the theater and you saw it right away at the beginning, even the development of her picking up her boyfriend, and the dates and everything, it almost seems like a documentary, but a heavily styled. Yeah. And not like a real gritty document, but it's almost like you're witnessing as it happens.
Yeah, there's a real flavor to a lot of the sequences. And there's so much done with so little. I was reading that Fincher forced his actors to talk really fast because the script itself was 20 pages, and he had to squeeze it into as little time as possible. So I think that's kind of fun. And then he also, if you even just focus on the minute characters of the film, like our lead female, like in the 5 minutes of screen time that we have in the opening of the film, we know a lot about her character.
Right.
Brian Cox's character. The fact that he was a real person, Melvin Belly, that was on Star Trek, and they hint at him actually appearing in a Star Trek episode. They talk about it on film. Like, it just adds so many layers to his character, and he doesn't have that much screen time. Brian Cox maybe in the film for 10 minutes. And we know so much about those characters going into it. I think it's just jammed with information from the characters speaking really fast, and they do talk really fast.
So overall, a sensational movie. If you haven't caught it yet, if you're a little weary about true crime movies, this is not it. This is actually a movie about characters, about obsessions, about compulsions, and it's an epic that doesn't even feel drags at all.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would love that term for it, an epic, because I do think it is a crime epic. I think there is a level of it that supersedes like time, because we move through time, we move through places like that really well. Cannot recommend this movie enough. Check out Zodiac if you can. Heck, Academy Award winner Bong Joon-ho calls it a masterpiece. So, trust him. He's got Academy Awards, and that's like the next best thing for Zodiac, because that's someone else who has Academy Awards. Really enjoyed it. So, we want to know your thoughts about Zodiac, though. Check this one out. Drop your comments down below, because we're interested. Do you think we're just crazy? Is the movie terrible and we're just wrong? Let us know in the comments below. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and you can get some new content every single week. Nick, they can join the Patreon.
Please do. Be a participant. It's not just us two. We want to encourage you to be part of the team.
Yep. Tiers as low as $1 a month. That's like a quarter of a Starbucks. So go ahead and consider doing that, and you can help actually contribute to the films we talk about on Kyle Nick on Film every week.
Join the team.
Yeah. Nick, where can we find you out and about?
You can find the St. Paul Filmcast, where we interview independent filmmakers from the Twin Cities, Minnesota area on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify.
Awesome. And you can find all my mini film reviews on goatfilmreviews.com, and you can find that Patreon at patreon.com/KyleNickOnFilm. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hopefully we've kept you enticed and made you interested in checking out this film, because I do think it's been buried. You've got to check it out. Solve that murder.